India. It's a birthday in our house, and we take those very seriously around here. So I appreciate you all accommodating us. Have I updated you all on? I know there was a lot of discussion about the homeless shelter restriction moratorium that we extended. Have I updated you all about that? I haven't seen you since then, I don't think, right? Okay, so in essence, what we did is we extended the mayor's moratorium on placing permanent shelters. Right now, the geography in which you can site a homeless shelter is really restrictive, and it disproportionately is burdensome to the west side. All it does is stops a new shelter from opening. It doesn't stop any of the current shelters from functioning or anything like that. But we're kind of viewing it collectively in the council office as a chance to get our feet under us and to really take a moment to, we've been in a very reactive crisis mode when it comes to homelessness, with not much kind of proactive orientation to how to handle the problem. And there's a lot of consensus to use this time. We are giving ourselves a deadline of January to have this figured out. So we're giving ourselves essentially the rest of this year to figure it out. If you have any other questions or concerns, I'm happy to talk about them with you. I don't think it's likely that we're going to say no more homeless shelters or anything like that. It's just that we're going to be opening up the geography, looking at where we can do it, and also looking at how we build partnerships with other important stakeholders to make sure that we're not always, Salt Lake City in general and the West Side in particular, that we're not always shouldering a disproportionate amount of burden, and that the resources that we get are commensurate with whatever burden we do shoulder. That also brings me to the Ramada Inn, which tomorrow is the last day that it's slated to be in operation. I spoke with Ian Harris, who is the director over there for programming. And at last check, there were 40 people who wanted a place to go, needed a place to go, and didn't have a place to go. So we're having some really intense discussions about, hey, this is exactly what we didn't want to happen. And how we mitigate the likelihood of this in the future, and how we make sure that our river trail isn't burdened. All that to say, neighbors, I feel like we have a really rough summer ahead of us. I think the resources just aren't in place yet to meet this crisis. However, I know that you all are really good, gracious people. So if you can help everyone remember, when we're starting to share the open public spaces, to handle each other with grace and with kindness. I think we have another really tough summer ahead of us of sharing public space, but we're working proactively. The mayor has actually become a lot more receptive and is willing to talk about things she wasn't really willing to consider before. And we're creating a plan. So please just stay with us. Remember that our neighbors who are homeless are our neighbors still. And if you have any questions, concerns, need help, I'm happy to always take a text, a call, an email, meet with you, whatever you need. Beyond that, I haven't seen you all since we got back from DC, right? So the entire council and the mayor went to the National League meeting. So that's where like all the city councils and city staffs and mayors from across the country get together. And it was a congressional forum. So we were able to meet with our federal delegation. I'm really pleased that Senator Romney, Representative Stewart, Representative Moore, and Representative Curtis are all really strongly in favor of us working hard to get access to the bipartisan infrastructure bill money. I got to hear Secretary Buttigieg talk about transportation plans and priorities, and inland ports were listed in his priorities. Now I'm kind of conditioned to like twitch every time I hear the word inland port because it's been a thing for us for so long. But I'm optimistic that with support like that from the federal delegation and with federal funding designed almost exactly for this purpose, we're going to be able to do those things that we've been talking about, the electrified roads, the electric switchers, things like that, that are going to make sure that we don't feel the impact of it. Beyond that, the Inland Port Authority and the city are, I think this week, maybe today even, had their first meeting to start negotiating the contract that will offer us some more certainty about what lies ahead with that project. We are surprisingly on the same page about a lot of things, including how we set priorities for recruiting industries that not only are low emissions or no emissions and will help us protect the environmental attributes, but also will bring high paying manufacturing jobs to the area. So I'm encouraged with the direction. As you all know, I am not taking my eye off of this ball for even one moment. There are so many points at which this thing can go off the literal and proverbial rails. And so I'm not letting my guard down, but I do want to report to you that I'm pretty encouraged by the starting point that we have for negotiating on Inland Port. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of positive progress on that. Again, if you have any other questions or concerns, please reach out to me, whatever way is easiest to you. I'd love to engage with you. And beyond that, I'm happy to take any questions if there's specific issues you'd like to hear from me on.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there questions from anyone in attendance? All right, Terry, looks like you've got your hand up. Are you able to unmute?
Hi, yeah. Victoria, the governor appointed a woman, I can't remember her name, to the board, who, according to the history that was published, is adept at attracting businesses, high profile businesses to the port. So maybe she's a contact that you can work on. It was just announced today, I think.
I know Teresa, yes. And we've been in deep conversations about how to leverage this opportunity. Senator Romney in particular, his first statement to us, he goes, I think Salt Lake City should consider if they want an inland port at all. And like all of us in the room laughed like audibly. And we're like, so the decision's been made for us. And then he said, well, then if that's the case, he goes, I really think you all need to decide what kind of businesses you want to attract. And he really started this common thread of really making this an opportunity for us to grow something instead of just to always have to play defense against something. And so Teresa is one of those who's on the same page with us on that.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands come up.
I'm going to go celebrate an 11-year-old. India, if you need me to log back on, will you just text me and I'd be happy to log on.
Absolutely. Happy birthday. Don't worry about it.
All right, bye.
Thanks. All right, well, we are going to turn now to a legislative update. So Representative Hollins, I'll turn the time over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope all of you all are having a good evening. Let's see. This session, this last 45 days were very interesting. Let me put it that way. You all know and probably heard and saw in the news that on the last day of session during the last hour, HB 11 went through, which banned, was around transgender kids playing sports in our school system. And then it was over, the governor vetoed and we were called back into a special session in which it passed. I voted against it. I didn't think the bill was necessary. I was just concerned about legal implications. Also, outside the fact that I felt that it was wrong and mean-spirited, the legal implications and the state of Utah being caught up in lawsuits in upcoming years around this. Reality is, I was told that really there's only 4 transgender students that's playing sports in this state, and out of those 4, only one of them is transitioning from a young man to a young woman. And so I felt the piece of legislation was unnecessary. Had a bill around the inland port. It was kind of a bittersweet bill that I did end up voting in favor of. Unfortunately, it took the voting, West Side don't have a voting member sitting on the board. They reorganized the entire board. But I can tell you the reason I voted for it because I fought along with other West Side legislators to make sure that the tax increments that they have set aside for the West Side remains on the West Side. We had conversation about your West Side representatives, and our concern was that maybe somewhere in the future, 10, whatever, 20 years from now, that they'll have a mayor in who decides that they want to use these tax increments for the east side or other areas, and we want to make sure it stays on the west side. One of the things that I was assured was that one of our city council people will be on that board, and they will be the ones making recommendations about how that money should be spent. We're not looking at anything coming in soon, like immediately, but we will be getting that funding on the west side. Another thing is, last Friday, I set up a prison tour, a tour of the prison for leadership in the West Side. I know that there were some people who were not able to join us for whatever reason. So what I'm trying to do now is set up a second one to see if they'll do one more before they start transporting prisoners in June, I believe it is. I'm trying to set up one more, so I know, India, you weren't able to come. So hopefully at the next one, you'll be able to come out, hopefully get it in enough time so that you all can go out there and have all your questions answered. I thought it was a really, really good tour. A lot of questions, a lot of really, really good questions about the new prison and what is going to happen out there. So I want to just make sure we still have that open relationship with them where we are able to express our concerns to them. This past session, I ran 3 bills. One was around making Juneteenth a state holiday since it is a federal holiday. The other one was about which we call the Izzy bill. You all know, saw the 10-year-old girl who died by suicide because of bullying in her school. So I ran a piece of legislation around that, looking at training in our school system for administrators around bullying, but also collecting that data. I found out that we only collect the data on the person that is doing the bullying, but not the person who is being bullied. We don't have the demographics, so we don't understand or have a full picture of what is happening in our school system around bullying. So I ran a bill around that, and I ran another bill around ethnic studies, requiring that K through 12, and also putting together a commission that is going to, for 2 years, that's going to look at how do we implement this or how do we go about doing this. One of the good things is we're going to have subgroups that's going to be working. This is going to be parents and community members who are going to also be at the table working on this. So it just won't be legislators. It's going to be, we want to have the community input on how this is going to look. So I think those are the biggest things right now. I am, believe it or not, starting to work on legislation for next year. I have people who are contacting me wanting to have discussions around what next year is going to look like. And don't forget, we have a summer intern that's going to be starting, I believe, in May next month. We're going to start looking at bills and policy for the upcoming session. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Lynn, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a question about how powerful is the vote of our one West Side representative on that board?
They are a non-voting member of the board on the Inland Port Board.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I've said, that was what was bitter sweet about that board. But I think between me, Luz, and Angela assuring that we have a voice, that I think that we have a really good relationship with the powers that be. And I think that's where a lot of our voices is going to come from. Like I said, when we insisted that they put it in policy that that money stays on the West Side, they listened to us and made sure to put those boundaries in place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I don't see any other hands up. If you do have a question, please. Oh, Dorothy, are you raising your hand? I think you're on mute.
Representative Hollins, could you talk about, in terms of the money
Mm-hmm,
being on the west side,
mm-hmm.
which, there's, as you know, there's lots of money
Yeah.
they have coming in,
Mm-hmm,
and it can be moved all the way around to between it. So, what ensures that the money is just, what money is restricted to staying on the west side,
mm-hmm.
and what protections are there that all that money is just not moved around, so it's spent any place anybody wants to put it?
You know, that's why we put it in statute. We put it in statute that it has to stay a certain increment, and I apologize, I can remember right now what increment that is, has to stay on the west side, and that's the reason why we put it in statute. We literally put boundaries around it, that this is the area that is going to be affected, and this is where the money needs to stay on this in this area. So we put it in statute, and we made sure it was in the bill.
So maybe in the future, we can have some more discussions on that, and that, because that'll be a big issue.
Absolutely. And I think we need to have discussion on that in the future, and also a discussion on looking at how this money is going to be spent, because I'm sure, I believe that the community needs to have input in looking at how, exactly how we're going to use this money.
Yeah, I mean, because the issue isn't so much west side, east side of Salt Lake City.
Mhm.
It has to do with moving money to Satellite Port
Mm,
locations from Salt Lake City and other types of very creative mechanisms that people use to move money around.
yeah, yeah. And I know part of the conversation I had with Mike Schultz, myself and Luz and Angela had with Mike Schultz, was expressing concerns that it stay over here and it's not used for anything beyond what our community or what our city council person recommend it be used for.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, well, I don't see any other hands, but Representative, thank you for joining tonight. I know you're double booked, and thank you for all your work during the session and the interim. We really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And I put my number in there. So text me anytime. I'm better at texting. And if you send me an email, please follow up with a text, because I receive hundreds and hundreds of emails, but I try to answer constituents' emails first. So if you email me, please send me a text and say, hey, check your email. I sent you an email. So, or call me.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right, well, I will just keep moving down our agenda. Next up, I've got a community report from the Salt Lake City Fire Department. And I saw, is that Captain Allen who's on for the fire department? Great.
Hello, yes, this is Captain Allen. Thanks for having us join your meeting. Fire department's been extremely busy as of late. We've had more fires in this last year than we normally do. We've had, I think, 36 working fires since the beginning of January, just 14 working fires in April alone. So a large portion of those, we believe, are started by some of our homeless population that's been occupying vacant structures. So that's been keeping us extra busy. A couple other things going on. It's Dispatch Awareness Week. So our dispatchers, we're giving them extra credit this week, or monitoring or supporting them. We have also quite a few trainings going on. We have a recruit school that started in February and will complete May 28th, where we have much needed new recruits, which will be joining our regular ranks. hazmat school is going along as well at the same time. We're starting to, with the COVID restrictions being relaxed a bit, we're starting to be able to interact and with different groups more than we have in the past. So we had a high school student demo day for some of the students that are going through apprenticeship type classes in high school. They were at Station 7 today for a visit and to see how a day in the life of the firefighters actually is. Other than that, we're preparing for wildland season. We've been having wildland training across the city and planning on taking the actions that we need to protect our interface areas where the homes meet the wildland areas around the city. I don't have our run volume numbers today. I apologize for that, but needless to say, we've been quite busy. Other than that, it's kind of status quo. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right, well, thank you.
I just saw Lynn's hand.
Oh, okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was wondering with the potential drought, is there going to be a way that you can override firework restrictions or implement them more?
Good question. That's kind of above my pay grade. That's into the fire department administration.
Fair
And
enough.
they along with the water department set the standards for firework restrictions, as well as for hydrant testing on an annual basis. Some years we flow the hydrants in the neighborhood to make sure that we blow the sediment out of the pipes and whatnot. But other years, this year we probably won't be doing that. But once again, that's the administration making the calls.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Dorothy? You're muted again, sorry.
Just a quick comment about the Salt Lake City's responsibility with the new prison for your services.
From the fire department standpoint,
Yeah,
I don't believe we've received official word yet as to our response. As it stands right now, responding to the construction site area, that's the first response in district for Company 9, which is located out in the International Center. Our paramedic rescue rig that goes out of Station 11 also covers for ALS support in that area. Going forward with when the prison's in operation, I don't know if they will be having their own medical staff on site or not.
Yes, they will.
Okay. Thanks.
Each unit will have their own medical people.
Well, very good. Do you know what level of medical they'll provide there? If it's ALS or BLS?
I don't know that,
Okay,
but they did say that they would have nurses and doctors and dentists and all those kinds of things, so that the more that they can keep the people in prison, the safer everyone is.
absolutely. And that keeps us available to into the citizens' home on the west side. So that's important to us as well.
Okay, are there other questions? Terry?
Captain, is there any discussion anywhere about maybe training prisoners that are close to getting out to become firemen? Anything like that going on?
Not this state. We do have a wildland fire program, which I know in other states, they do have some prisoners that have been used as wildland firefighters. In the California fires that I was deployed to a year ago, there were teams of prison firefighters. But even those guys, I think it's that they have an opportunity to volunteer, and the volunteers for that have been down. So even the prisoners don't want to fight wildland fire these days. So I don't know.
I was just curious if there was some program to actually bring them in formally for apprenticeships or training. It's just an idea out there.
Yeah, that seems like a group of able-bodied men. So that's a good idea to follow up on. Yes, I saw another hand.
If I'm not seeing any other hands right now, but if I don't want to skip over anyone, if you have a question. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything else. So Captain, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the update.
Thank you, India. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, and I believe I saw Detective Oliver on the call. So I'd love to hear a report from the city police department.
All right, I'm here. Good evening, everybody. Let's jump into some numbers, then we'll go ask for some questions at the end. Unless you have some questions you guys want to talk about right now. As I pull up some of these numbers, we got our 2021 CompStat annual report, and I believe I got it just after this meeting last month. So I want to just go over that real quick. And if these numbers sound familiar, then my timeline's way off, and I probably already have given them to you. So cut me off real quick if these numbers sound familiar. For 2021, we received 239,002 calls for service. There were over 55,500 reports written in 2021. There were 5,177 jail bookings. Our jail bookings actually went down by 17% from a 3-year average. Misdemeanor citations, there were over 1,700 given in 2021. Those were actually down by 38% as well. And then there were 5,200 traffic citations that were written in 2021, which was down 63% from a 3-year average. So our numbers overall for 2021 all decreased, minus our calls for service, which went up 15%. So I think a lot of that had to do with our manpower and just not being able to do a lot of other things than responding on calls for service. In 2021, we had 294 guns that were stolen that were reported. That's 24% increase over the last 3 years. We had 50 recovered in 2021, and we had 465 guns that were seized, either through drug interdiction or gang interdiction stops. So that's kind of crazy that we had double the amount of guns seized than we had stolen last year. That's kind of a number that we don't like to see. So in 2021, we did have 18 homicides throughout the city. The homicides, the weapons that were used during those homicides, there were 11 guns used, 1 knife, 2 motor vehicles, 1 blunt object, and then 3 with an unknown item. So 61% of our homicides in 2021 occurred on the weekend, so Saturday and Sunday. And then for motor vehicle theft for 2021, which is pretty interesting, we had 2,134 motor vehicles that were reported stolen. And the top 5 makes that were stolen in Salt Lake City were the Honda Civic, the Honda Accord, the Honda CR-V, the Ford F-150, and the Ford F-250. So if you have any of those vehicles, beware that you are in one of the top 5 category of vehicles stolen in Salt Lake City. Are there any questions about that? You can get on to SLCPD and see that report in its full. If you want to look at the response times and some of the other things, the top call locations for each district is also in there. So that's kind of an interesting read. Any questions on those? All right, that's great. Let's go to our CompStat for this month, which is our CompStat volume 8, number 14, and this is through 4/10 of 2022, so for 3 days ago. And citywide, just so we can kind of do a little bit of a comparison, citywide, there were in the last 28 days, there were 119 violent crimes throughout the city. That's down 7.8% from the previous year. So that's a good thing. Actually, my bad, that's up 7.8%, but it's down 4.5% from year to date. So that's one thing we were looking at there. And then if we just narrow it down a little bit more to District 1, there were 10 violent crimes in the last 28 days. So for the last month that we were in between community council meetings, there were 10 violent crimes. One of those was there were 3 aggravated assault families, so domestic violence issues. There were 2 ag assaults, and then there were five forcible rapes. So those were the crimes that occurred in District 1 in the last 28 days. For property crimes, we had 91 property crimes that occurred. There were 3 residential burglaries, 6 burglaries, all other, that could include churches, anything like that. So there were 6 burglaries on outbuildings, 36 vehicle burglaries, and 31 larcenies, for a total of 91. And then, of course, there are 15 motor vehicle thefts over the last 28 days. So for our year-to-date average, we're actually down in all those categories, which is fantastic. We're down a total of 24.4% compared to last year, which is great. We like to see that. We just cross our fingers as the weather gets warmer that we can stay on top of the crime that usually occurs in the warm weather. And that's pretty much the numbers I have for, and of course, I didn't mention that there was 1 homicide reported, and that was out at the airport. That would just happened. I think you probably have read that on KSL. That happened just a couple days ago. Any questions? Anything I can try and find for you? If not, that's a super quick meeting on my end. I know Dorothy's got something. I know it. No. Okay.
All right, and I'm not seeing any other hands either. So Detective, thank you so much. Oh, we've got Todd.
As soon as I figure out how to unmute myself. Did you say 10 rapes in the last month in District 1?
In District, I think it was 5, but let me check the exact number here. There were, in District 1, there were 5 forcible rapes in the last 28 days. So year to date, there's been 7. We are higher, 40% higher than we were year to date in District 1. Some of those, I think, were also in the news not too long ago. And I believe we have very few stranger rapes that actually is someone that nobody know, or the victim doesn't know. So a lot of our rapes are known criminals or known suspects. So that's the good thing. And we have arrested almost all of those.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel better.
Good. Sorry, I left that out there. I was just trying to get questions, I guess. Sorry. I knew Dorothy was going to raise her hand.
You're on. You have to unlock yourself. Okay.
So I've had a young woman who's going to be graduating from high school this year and is interested in a career in law enforcement and, wanted to know how to proceed, speaks at least 2 languages and is very responsible. What can I tell her?
We would love for her to apply and get into the Salt Lake City Police Department. So SLCPD, if you go to slcpd.com, I believe the top thing is a recruiting, the top flyer or bar is a recruiting aspect. So she can put her information in there and then the recruiter will reach out to her. And we would absolutely love for her to get involved.
So, so is there a process? Or is it basically, you put in your application and then you're, what am I trying to say?
So the application
is a big decision. So usually not just for the applicant, but for parents.
Right.
With getting out of school. So What types of things do you do that help
So-
facilitate that?
Yeah, so the application process is the initial process. We do have numerous parts of it. You have to do a physical fitness test. You have to pass the physical fitness test. You have to do a psychological review, a criminal background history, and then you do a lie detector test as well. So there are a number of steps that you just work your way through, and then once you clear all those hurdles, then you're put into the next academy class. And currently we have 3 academy classes going. 1 academy class graduated, and we have 16 officers that are in their field training part of the academy right now. So they're out on the road with a trainer, and about 15 weeks they'll be out on their own. So yeah, it's a little bit of a process. It's 21 weeks in the academy, 15 weeks through the FTO process, and I would say a couple months in the hiring process as well. But the quicker you can get the application in, the quicker it goes too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. And I'll just stay on and I'll watch the chat for any questions.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, India.
Okay, and next, a report, an update from the mayor's office, and I believe I saw Josh on as well. Perfect.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Boyle. I'm from the mayor's office. I'm the community liaison for District 1. I'll apologize in advance. I just have to hop off the meeting after I'm done with my update and after I'm done answering any questions. But I will leave also my contact info in the chat afterwards for anyone that needs to reach out to me if we don't get to all the questions or if there's something I need to follow up on. So I'll just go ahead and copy and paste here into the chat a number of announcements and things I wanted to share from the city administration end. There's a number of events that didn't happen over the past couple of years that are coming back now, and one of those is happening next Saturday, April 23rd, which is the Salt Lake City Marathon. And at that link, you'll find the course map and information about road closures. It won't affect the Westpointe neighborhood, but it is a Saturday, so if you're out and about in the city, it would be helpful to take note of that event going on the morning of April 23rd. And next month also is the return of the Living Traditions Festival on Washington and Library Squares, May 20th through 22nd. And it's still a little bit out, but I just wanted to share that also because the Arts Council is also looking for volunteers still for the event. If you're interested, take a look at that link at saltlakearts.org. And a standing item, as always, is our boards and commissions. If you've applied to a board or commission and have not heard back, please let me know. We're always trying to improve the process, and there are a number of different boards, and each board has different coordinators and supervisors so the process for filling them sometimes is slower for certain boards than others. So and also another thing to note is when you're filling that out online, you do need to attach a resume to your application, or else it's likely not to be considered. So attaching a resume in addition to filling out the information beforehand in the form is a requirement if you're applying to a board or commission. And last but not least here, feedback surveys at slc.gov/feedback leads to our feedback community page, which compiles all the current surveys in the city that are seeking public input, including the Thriving in Place survey on displacement and gentrification. Also, the Glendale Water Park Vision Plan, that one actually closes on the 16th. So later this week. So that's one of the ones that's closing soon. And that one's continually updated with different surveys. And by clicking on the link there that says join the feedback community, you can subscribe yourselves to various newsletters in the city tied to your city council district, or maybe to a specific project that you're interested in getting updates on. And so take a look at that site for more information about feedback opportunities. And that is all I have from this list of things I wanted to share. And I'm happy to take any questions on that or anything else for the mayor's office.
Thank you, Josh. Looks like Todd has a question.
I can't find it. Is there going to be a mayor bike to work this year?
I'm sorry, what was that?
A mayor's bike to work?
Oh, bike to work. I'm not sure. When was that last time? Do you remember what month that was?
It's usually the third week in May. And
Okay.
it's done with the county, and I
Yeah.
need a date.
Yeah,
and
now I'm
place and
remembering.
things.
They're likely, I would imagine there would be. I don't have any information on it yet, but
Okay.
it still would be in time that by next month when I'm here, it should still be before then. But maybe watch out for an announcement on that. Thanks for that question.
Thanks,
Do you have
Todd.
another hand?
Terry.
Yeah, Josh, the East-West Access Grant that was being written, I think the deadline was Sunday. Will you just keep us up to date on the status of that as it goes along?
Yep, absolutely. I'll take a note to provide an update on it by next month's meeting, if there is one, an update. Thanks.
Thank you. Dorothy.
So I saw the survey compilation. What did you call it again? There's
So
all the surveys on it.
it's the feedback community.
Feedback. I mean, it's really nice that they're all together because it's, I mean, anybody who's ever gotten stuff from the city, you know, there's all these surveys coming from all sorts of people, and so it's hard to keep track of them all. So that's a really positive thing. Will this one spot take the place of all the other emails we get for surveys? Or is this in addition to?
This is in addition to, I imagine you'll still receive emails if you're on community, especially as a community leader, community council leader, you'll probably still receive a good number of emails, but this is at least a spot where all the surveys will be in one place. So if you miss an email or it's somewhere that you can't find it, they should all be in this spot. And also further down on that page, you can actually read the feedback reports. So the reports of past surveys and what the feedback was on those surveys. So that'll be there too.
So that, will it keep track of the number of people who have responded in real time?
Well, that information is always tracked by civic engagement when surveys are launched. But I believe on this page, they should make that data public. But that page is still being built out by civic engagement, but it's mostly there. There's a few features there that are not fully done, including there's going to be a guide on there in participating in city projects and initiatives, a guide for residents that's going to be put on there soon.
And who is in charge of kind of managing this whole?
So that would be the civic engagement team in the city, an internal team that all the city departments work with when they want to do engagement in the form of surveys and things like that. So civic engagement keeps track of that data from these various surveys.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Josh. And Todd and Terry, do you have additional questions or is your hand up from? Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. I'll put my contact info in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Josh. We appreciate it. All right, and I'll turn the time over now. Our last community report from the Regional Athletic Complex. Chris, I saw you on.
Hey everyone, good evening. My name is Chris Laughlin. I'm the program manager for Salt Lake City Parks and Public Lands. I just want to take a little bit of time to give you a quick update on the Regional Athletic Complex. We opened this past weekend, so we're up and running for the season, and we have several youth tournaments scheduled for the season. And that's soccer, rugby, lacrosse, ultimate frisbee are our biggest sports that we host. And that, as well as adult and youth soccer leagues. So they'll be playing throughout the season. Two of our most notable events for this year is the 2022 Quidditch Cup. It's a national event, and this is the first time this event has been on the West Coast, anywhere west of the Mississippi. So we're really excited to be their host state, first host state on the west side, and we're really looking forward to that. And that tournament is in a couple weeks at the end of April. And then another notable tournament we have this season is the Super Copa Youth Soccer event, and that takes place in June. It's a 4-day event, and it brings in about 198 teams, and its estimated economic impact is around $10 million. So we're really excited to bring in that much youth sports tourism to Salt Lake City, and they'll be staying at our hotels, and it will impact our transportation, our lodging, our food and beverage, and retail industries. So we're really excited about hosting these national events. A quick last season recap. For 2021, we had a 197-day season. It's about 7 months. We hosted 36 tournaments and events. We had 8,841 reservation hours, which is about 4,420 games played. And we had 41 states represented throughout the year. So we had all but 9 states represented, and that traveled to Utah to play in an event here at the Regional Athletic Complex. So that was really impressive. As far as revenue, we brought in $640,000 in reservation revenue, and estimated economic impact of $18 million for the year. Our accomplishments, some other of our accomplishments are, we had our best year in revenue since we opened in 2015. We had our second best year in economic impact with 18 million. And we completed a full season with no COVID related issues from staff, teams, or visitors. So we're really happy about that. And we bounced back from a COVID year from 2020, which we were almost closed the whole season. And we bounced back pretty well. Despite having several cancellations and events downsizing, we were still able to have one of our best years. So, but yeah, we're really excited about this year, and hope to continue to build on that 2021 season. We had one project here at the RAC. We had a shade structure project. It was completed in November of 2021. This was a 2019 CIP funded project, and it's pretty large. It's a 6-column, 6x50 in size, and we'll have 2 shade sails, and it's also fitted with lights and electrical outlets. So it's just another amenity for visitors when they're out at the RAC watching the games being played. And then lastly, I would just like to give an update on the 1932 Rose Park Lane property. That's a Salt Lake City owned property since 2019. We're currently in the process of filing the pre-demolition application to demo the existing house on that site. We've had several incidents with break-ins, and our goal is to get that house demoed as soon as we secure funding for the project, which is about $50,000 to $70,000 to complete the demo and clear everything out. We're also in the process of rezoning the 2 residential parcels in that area into open space for future development. There will be community engagement outreach to see what the residents would like to see in that space and to see it be used for. But once we secure funding for the design and can move forward. But yeah, other than that, thank you for giving me the time to talk, and let me know if you guys have any questions about the RAC this year or future, and I would be more than happy to help you.
Thank you, Chris. Really, really good updates to hear. I love that there's Quidditch coming up. That's terrific.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's new. It's a different sport. It's kind of a niche sport, but we're really excited, and it has a big following. So we're expecting a good turnout.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Chris? Dorothy?
Well, is anybody else? So Chris, we've talked before about
Yeah.
the RAC's goal of having 10% of their participants be people from the West Side.
Yes.
And the RAC has never met that goal, but it'd be helpful to know how far we've come on that goal. Maybe we have met it. I just don't know where we're at on that. And what are we doing to further that goal?
So our biggest challenge with that, and it's an important factor to, 10% is not asking a lot to give or to devote towards the West Side community. But our biggest challenge is Salt Lake City Parks does not have a recreation department. So we cannot actively make programming for the RAC. It's actually county owns a lot of those, or they run a lot of those programs, and they use county assets and fields. So it's really hard we can't do any grassroots programming. So we would need community organizers to host and run, any kind of sports leagues or camps. And we would be more than willing to work with them, but we just haven't been able to find those organizations that can, that have that reach within the community and that could bring, even just like a kickball league or, a soccer camp. We haven't been able to connect yet. So although it is a goal for us to give 10%, to our residents, at least 10%, we're just coming up short. We're making those connections.
So this is a good time now that you're looking at this expansion on 1932 and looking at that might be a good opportunity to pull people together and really. So maybe you can talk to us about at some point. I mean, who are the people that we need to pull together to get this done?
Sure. Yeah. And if you know of anybody that's, grassroots nonprofit wants to, host, needs field space and wants to incorporate the city and residents within Westpointe, send them our way. We'll definitely work with them. I would love to do a summer camp or, any kind of day camps with the schools, or, do our field day at the RAC. That would be awesome. So anyone that that would be interested in running one of those leagues, it would have to be external at this point, but anyone that's interested, send them our way.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I don't see any other hands up, but are there any other questions? All right, well then we'll keep moving along on our agenda. I know we're just a little bit behind, but Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and just to give everyone kind of a lay of the land, we're going to be hearing a presentation now from Salt Lake City Planning Division, followed by a presentation from Department of Corrections. So Sarah, if you would like to go ahead and give your presentation, we would appreciate that. This is going to be on some drafted zoning text amendments to incentivize affordable housing. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm Sarah Jeveronic, a planner with Salt Lake City. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, let me know if you have any issues with that. So generally, these amendments apply to zoning districts that allow residential uses. And so tonight, what I wanted to do is provide a brief overview of what is proposed, and then focus on the Jordan Meadows and Westpointe areas. So just kind of looking at things really broadly, the affordable housing incentives are a tool that is proposed to be added to the zoning code that incentivizes the building or preserving of affordable housing. And one thing that I think is important to acknowledge is that this project is to modify zoning requirements. This is what's under the purview of the Planning Division. We know and understand that there are issues and concerns that zoning can't address, like job wages, home prices, and outside of these proposed amendments, the types of units that are constructed and the rents that's charged. So the goal of the incentives are to do two things. The first is to help tax dollars and private dollars that go into building affordable projects create more housing units. The proposal includes the use of density bonuses, shortening approval timelines, and then modifying some zoning regulations to make that happen. Second, the incentives may open the door for property owners to start thinking about how their property may be used to provide new and affordable housing units. In many zoning districts, zoning rules currently prohibit some property owners from investing in their property to build more housing. And so a key component of this is defining what affordability means. And the incentives are tied to a definition of affordability, with a greater incentive for those homes that are affordable to those with the lowest incomes. And any property that uses the incentives will be deed restricted to ensure that the homes subject to the incentives remain at an affordable level. So I wanted to just kind of briefly go over a couple different ways that it applies. For mixed use and multifamily zoning districts, it allows a variety of incentives, additional height of 1 to 3 stories, additional housing types in some zoning districts, and then it removes the provision for an additional story in the transit station area or TSA zoning district. It would change this to require affordable units. These would require 20% of the units to be set aside as affordable unless 2 or more bedrooms are provided, and then 10% of the units would need to be set aside as affordable. And it defines affordable as 80% of AMI for income and rent, and this definition is different in other areas of the code. So this may provide some relief from planning processes, but it wouldn't remove the design standards that the projects must meet. And then for additional housing types, it would add design standards for row houses and other additional housing types, and similarly require those to be restricted to those with an income at or below 80% of area median income. And then for single and 2-family zoning districts, this includes the FR, the R1 and SR zones. It would allow additional housing types in areas that are near high frequency arterial roadways. There has been some consideration to allowing these more broadly and not tying them to higher frequency transit. The additional housing types that could be added are 2-family or duplex residences, triplex and 4-plex units, and then townhouses in groups of 3 or 4. These would be required to meet some additional design standards, and half of these units would need to be affordable at 80% of AMI for income and rent. The proposal does not include permitting ADUs and 2-family homes by right. This was included earlier, but we've removed that since the state legislature has permitted attached ADUs. Additionally, the city is considering removing the conditional use process for detached ADUs in single-family districts. And then for the RMF for residential multifamily districts, it would remove the density requirements that are in place, provided there are units that are designated as affordable. Generally, this is 40% of the units at 60% AMI for both income and rent. And there's a higher area median income for owner-occupied units of 80%. One of the reasons for this is that the current existing requirements for these RMF zones can make it difficult to build multifamily housing, especially in the eastern part of the city. The minimum lot size can minimum lot size per unit, can restrict the number of units often beyond what was built years ago, especially those that were built maybe 100 years ago. The proposal would also permit some process modifications, generally providing for administrative review, which would not modify design standards. And then it would also permit some modifications to standards related to lot area, lot width, setbacks, and lot coverage. So now I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more specifically about how it would apply in these 2 community council areas. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different screen. Hold on just a minute. So just kind of looking at these 2 community councils. So you kind of have this kind of large area. The proposal is generally limited to the areas that are east of I-215. So just kind of zooming in here and looking at these 2. These are the areas that permit residential uses, at least for the most part. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our zoning districts so you can see what those different zoning districts are. Just kind of starting in Jordan Meadows. just like this is North Temple here, and then you have I-215 here. So the area along North Temple and near the train stations is zoned transit station area MUECC and MUECT. And so there's a distinction with the C for a core area and then the T for the transition area. And this area is designed to accommodate a mix of uses, including a large number of jobs like the state offices, as well as housing. And so the existing TSA requirements allow for an additional story if projects meet the required points for administrative review. And the proposal would require affordable units in buildings to construct this additional floor. And then it would permit 2 additional floors in the core areas. So there aren't too many of those. I'll just kind of get in a little closer for you. So these are the TSA areas. And so right now the TSA ones with the T at the end, the transition areas, those allow for 60 feet plus that additional floor. And then the core areas allow for 75 feet plus that additional floor, which this would allow that to be up to 2. Let's see, just kind of moving out just a little bit. A couple others that I wanted to mention are the CB and the CN zones. There aren't too many in these areas, but just kind of wanted to touch on those. Sorry for moving that around. So the CB zone allows for 30 feet in height, and then the CN zone allows for 25 feet. And so it would allow 1 additional story in these 2 areas. And then there is one CS property, that community shopping center. That's where there's a Lucky grocery store. And so it would remove a planned development process requirement for any development in these CS zones. And there aren't very many of these CS zones, but it's one of only 2 zones in the city that requires a planned development. So if any of these were to be redeveloped and they provided affordable housing, that wouldn't be required. So the next area that I wanted to talk about a little bit more are the RMF zones. I'll go ahead and just kind of isolate these so you can see where those are. And so in these areas, no additional height is proposed, but if the affordability requirements are met, the density requirements wouldn't apply. There would be some additional design standards that the projects would need to meet. And there would be some modifications permitted to requirements for lot standards as well. Another item that I mentioned relates to single family homes that are near transit. So those that are within a quarter mile of what we're calling high frequency transit, which is tracks and buses that run every 15 minutes. And then also properties that are adjacent to arterial roads. And so in these areas, there would be additional housing types permitted. And so these would be single family attached houses as row houses or sideways row houses in groups of 3 and 4, and then duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. Previously, these were permitted in many areas of Salt Lake, and over time, the zoning in these areas became more restrictive. A lot of the areas in your areas in Jordan Meadows and Westpointe generally developed later than many in Salt Lake. It might be a little less likely to have this mix of housing types than other areas that are further to the east. But this proposal would allow these uses with additional design standards and could allow some modifications to the existing standards for lot coverage or setbacks. It would allow them as a permitted use, but it is something that would be up to the property owner to pursue any changes and then any development or redevelopment. And then I can go ahead and take a few minutes for questions. And then I do want to kind of close out and give you some idea of the next steps that we have proposed as well. So I'm not sure if there are any questions right now or if how I want to move forward, but
it looks like, thank you so much, Sarah. I've got a couple hands up. It looks like Todd had his up first and then Lynn.
What's the status of the tiny home community?
Well, the tiny home community, I am not working on that project. I believe the rezoning is complete, but don't quote me on that one. That is not something I know too much about. I'm sorry.
It's not
What would we do about parking for all these additional houses?
So what it does is it basically would require a minimum of 1 parking space per unit, or kind of what by that zoning district. So in like those TSA zoning districts, there's likely to be a lower parking requirement, but in the R1 5000 or the R1 7000, which is these yellow areas that are shown right now, it would require at least 1 parking space per unit.
Just on the street or?
No, off-street parking.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions now before Sarah continues on? Okay.
Sarah, can you? Maybe you'll talk about this later. As you bring in more people and more units, can you talk about where parks and schools are going to be developed to meet that population?
I wasn't necessarily going to talk about that more. I think that's kind of something that's not really, parks and schools themselves aren't part of this proposal. Some things that are part of this proposal would be to have some minimum open space requirements for some of the units, or to have some minimum, I think what it's called is private open space, but basically having balconies or things like that on some units. I'm just trying to give people some personal space that's outdoors, or ensure that on properties there's some outdoor space as well. But there aren't provisions that relate specifically to parks or schools.
Thank you. Any other questions right now? All right.
Great. So just kind of wanted to go over some of the next steps. Let me go ahead and just kind of share the PowerPoint on that. So the next steps are some additional outreach opportunities. We are having one event next week at Riverside Park next Tuesday afternoon. And then if you do have some specific questions that you want to ask one-on-one, there are some virtual office hours tomorrow. You can review the draft online at that project webpage that's on the slide. And then on that, if you go to that page, there's also a link to those office hours, or some more information about the open house at Riverside Park next week. There are some other documents for you to review. There's a 2-page summary, another version that has a document that describes a lot of what we just talked about in more detail. And then we posted a couple standalone videos that go into more detail as well. One talks about the mixed use and multifamily districts, and then the other talks about the RMF zones and the single family districts. There's also a YouTube video with more details on each aspect that was made as part of a Facebook Q&A event that was held in February. And then if you go a little bit further down on that project page, there's a comment form where you can submit.
Yes.
And then the Planning Commission hearing on this is scheduled for May 11th. The Planning Commission will review and make a recommendation on the proposed amendments to the City Council. And there will be an opportunity for public comment at the Planning Commission hearing. And then the City Council will hold additional meetings and hearings, and they make the final decision on the proposal. So there are additional questions right now.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Great. Just let me know. My email and my contact information, I can put it in the chat, and it's also at the bottom on the project page. Let me go ahead and put that in there. But just let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks so much for being here and giving us that presentation. We appreciate it. as she's putting all of that in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and tee up Michael. I believe you're here from Department of Corrections based on some emails we were on. And we would love to hear from you on some prison updates.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, my name is Lieutenant Michael Millward. I work for the Utah Department of Corrections. I'm on the prison relocation and transition team. So we've been out here on the site in Salt Lake for about 5 years now. And I'm gonna share my screen right here to do this little PowerPoint right here. Kind of new to the Zoom right here, but okay. Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay, so what I want to do, it's a quick little presentation. I might go back and forth on some of these slides. And at the end, when we do like Q&A, I have a flyover of the new site. So you can see it's one of the most recent ones that we have. But right here, this is just an update we did at the Capitol a little while ago. It's a prison relocation transition team. And let me see if I can figure this out. This is our team right here. This is us at the groundbreaking. We did this in August of 2017. And since then, it's been nonstop construction. These are all the people that have been involved, GSBS and HOK, architectural, Big D Construction and Kitchell. They manage the whole project with Leighton Oakland, who manages all the subcontractors. Sorry, it's on a timer right here. DFCM is over this whole project, but they're overall, they're at the peak. We had about 1,900 people working on this project to make it a reality. We are transitioning from the old prison in Draper to come out here in Salt Lake City. And I mean, the cool thing about it is, I mean, this is a historic event. This doesn't happen very often. It did happen right there in 1951 from Sugar House Prison, which is a park right now in Salt Lake, but you guys know where that is, I'm sure. And then they moved there to Draper in 1951. At the time, there was about 500 inmates that moved over, and they only had the one structure. And over time, it grew into this. Can you see my mouse moving right here?
Yeah, we can see it.
This is actually that little Wasatch area. So if you look back right here, this whole Wasatch area, it became this one right here. This is where it is. And over time it grew. This is the Wasatch. This is the Uintas, our maximum security. This is more general pop. This is the Timpanogos facility. I'm sorry, that timer is just awesome. Olympus facility for our mentally ill population, our programming, and our, this is Promontory right here, and this is Lone Peak. So over time, it just kept growing. And built the prison in Gunnison, Utah for Central Utah Correctional Facility. So we do contract with about 20 of our counties for some of our state inmates, up to about 1,450 inmates. And this new facility, it's located right here in your neighborhood. The little dot, we can see it from space. We like to show people that because, you know, we're on the map. But this is the new facility. This was the let me make sure I can just pause it right here. This is the outlay of it. This is a digital version of it where we have everything that the old prison has inside of one perimeter, one fenced in perimeter. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. We have our maximum security, our general population for men, our Promontory, which is our STP program, that's sex offender and substance use treatment program. This is our mental health building with our geriatric population, mental health, infirmary and clinic. This is our receiving and orientation building right here in the middle where everyone comes in and gets their fingerprints, their pictures. And whether they're male or female, we house the males here, and then the females go into this population right here. It's the whole women's prison inside the same perimeter. So the women have everything the men have. Maximum security, general population. They have correctional industries, some programming areas, some outside yards, and dining halls. I mean, it's just a small prison within the big prison. And as we go forward here, this is just a little schematic of one of our buildings, our maximum security. And what's really cool about this building is it's built on the concept of transitioning to getting more privileges. We manage behavior here at the prison. Our goal is to rehabilitate, because the national average is 95% of our population or corrections populations will get out again and be on the streets, which we want. But this facility, what's really cool about it is we have outside recreation yards. We have multiple ways to get them some more rec time and education, even in maximum security. This is a 3D rendering of that building, which got us really excited. I mean, this was 1 year in, we finally saw what they would look like, and this is what it looks like today. It's in place, it's built up, it's all tilt wall construction. We have some CMU stuff, they're painted. This is the inside of one of our sections for maximum security. We're built on the concept of direct supervision. So we are inside the section with the inmates most of our time. So we can supervise, we can mentor, we can help them with whatever they need. This right here is an elevated control room where we have officers that will look over the sections and help answer questions. They have buttons in all the cells to talk to them. And this is a rendering of the cell right here. This is a 2-man cell. We have single cells, 2-man cells, and 8-man cells. And we have open dorms so they can transition to have more privileges. This is one of our open sections in maximum security. Now, what I want to stop right here and help you understand the difference of what this looks like compared to Draper. You've probably seen us in the news a little bit lately. Oh man, I really got to stop that timer. But look at all the natural daylight that's coming into this section. Again, this is maximum security. This is some of our inmates who are on protective custody. They're in there for a reason, but even in here for our staff and for the inmates, we have a lot of natural daylight coming in. There's skylights above right here. There's natural daylight coming in from the rec yard right off the section. Here's a desk that our staff will be stationed at, but even the glazing on the doors of every single cell, there's a lot of glazing to let that natural daylight come in. We've had mental health professionals come in. We've had interior designers come in to pick the colors of the frames and the doors and the stairways. It is a facility where we can have better security checks, where there's more interaction, there's more communication amongst themselves and from our staff. But this section right here, this is in max, and this is what a lot of our sections look like in general population as well. And of course, our goal is to get them to general population and eventually parole out. Now, this is an 8-man cell. This is a new concept for us. They have opportunities to have their own bathroom and their shower and a urinal in there. And this is part of, they were prefabricated in Ogden, Utah. They were brought in by truck and then they were craned in place. The construction out here was an amazing thing to see. Let me go back to that one really quick. They brought them in, they capped them. They put them and then they put the walls in, capped it. And I would say, boom, boom, we have a prison in place, over 38 structures. This is part of the infrastructure. We're the end user for the infrastructure, the electrical, the plumbing, the water, everything came in because of this. The state bought 323 acres out here. We're developing 172. There's the numbers right there for, my goodness. Total building square feet right there. And I like this picture because it's a cool John Deere's tractor. I mean, just getting this land ready was kind of amazing process to see. Just some more groundwork. They moved it all. They flattened it out. They made the building pad to be able to build out here. This is all the tons of dirt that they brought in. Almost 2 million tons of dirt just to bring in and to start the foundation. And it took over 48,000 truckloads. It took about a year to get done. And then they put wick drains and surcharge. Now, wick drains, we have a little video coming up of showing how they put wick drains every 5 feet throughout the whole site to bring up the moisture, because there is a high water table out here. The engineers, they really knew what they were doing. It was one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen. And this is them putting in those wick drains after they flatten the ground out here. And then you'll see the trucks. The next thing is they plow these things. They're like little candle wicks, and they bring up the moisture from the ground. And we even have moats around our property, but then they brought in the weight of the building in dirt and the shape of the building just to compress that ground to get it ready to build. So, I mean, construction out here, it was an amazing process. I mean, after a while, it was like watching paint dry, but it was super fun watching that dirt come in and get reallocated. They reallocated that dirt to other building pads because, like I said, we have 10 housing unit structures, but overall we have about 38 structures out here in whole. So with that, that's another 3D rendering of the site. This is some of the pictures our architects Horrocks got ready for us. And this was what the building pad looked like. And it's actually in the shape and placement of where the building ended up being. Now, this is what it looks like about 2 months ago. See how we have some grass out in the field? This is a large yard for our inmates. And in general population, this one right here, this is my boss's email right here for any questions. His name's Steve Turley. I'm sure you've met him. He was our warden. He was our division director. Sorry, let me go back to that. But this is before all the construction even started. I caught him just looking at the future. I thought that was kind of fun. But let me share this other video right here, because this is a flyover of the new prison. I think I'm still on share. Okay. And as we go right here, this was it about, I would say, a month ago. Right now, we could take some questions and answers. We do some Q&A if you want, but as you watch this video, it's just kind of fun to see what's going on. I haven't been on mute the whole time, right? I've been talking a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, it was just quiet there for a minute. So
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there questions either in the chat or anyone who wants to raise their hand?
I don't think we're seeing the second video.
Oh no?
No, it's on a different screen.
I'm so okay. Let me send it.
Thank you, Lynn.
New share. Let me look at it. It's right. No. Where's that other screen at?
And while he's getting
Try
that
to figure
pulled
this
up,
out.
yeah, if anyone wants to add questions into the chat, please feel free to.
Oh, it's this screen. This one? I don't know. Where are they? Did I just decide? They're still here. Okay, they're still there. Okay, can you guys see this screen? Wait a minute. This one. I think it's this one. Okay, can you guys see that screen?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, man, technology's hard sometimes. There it is. Now, I mean, if you have questions, we can go over that, but look at the big yards that we have out here. This is our geriatric yard right here. Can you see my mouse right here? We have walking tracks, we have big light poles, we have non-denominational religious yards out there. We have our maximum security on the left, and we have roadways throughout, because if we need emergency vehicles, if we need our fire trucks, our SWAT team, anyone to respond to anything, our garbage trucks picking up trash, we can go throughout and it respond faster than we've ever been able to. This big building right here in the middle, I might want to pause this a little bit or go back a little bit. They're kind of quick. These are housing units for our general population right here. We have about 1,664 bunks for our male general population. And this is a unit center right here. We have opportunity for jobs for the dining halls. We have the same amount of classrooms on this side of the prison or the general pop as this side. This building's basically split down the middle. So we have 2 chapels on this side, 2 chapels on this side, a weight room on both sides, and a big full-blown gym for them to have inside recreation. Then we have classrooms throughout this building right here, equal on both sides, because we do have safety concerns in prison. We got to keep some of them populations away from each other for their own safety. But these yards out here for general pop are very large yards. A lot of outside, we have basketball hoops. We're going to have room for softball, for soccer, probably volleyball, and a big old walking track. They could do marathons. They could have all sorts of activities out there. Now, as it just goes on, you can see this is one side of general pop. This is the other side of general pop for men with the same yard, same opportunities, same dining halls on that side. I mean, you're getting one of the quickest tours I've ever given, and you're going to see a lot through here. This building right here is our receiving and orientation building right here. This parking lot right here in the middle is where we do our intake process. They come through this tower right here. They come in this parking lot, and we can separate males from females, people with gate passes who work in the community. And let me pause this real quick. You see this wall right here? This is a sight barrier wall to keep our female population away from our male population. We only have about 600 females in this prison, but they have everything that the men have, but it's enclosed, like I showed you in the mock-up, away from the males. This is our correctional industries building right here where they learn job skills and get some further education. This is a horticulture yard where we can do farmland. We're gonna have greenhouses right here at the top. So they can learn some horticulture, learn how to take care of all sorts of shrubbery. And this is a horticulture building out here to just more programming space. You see Antelope Island out here. This is our maintenance building. We have on-site maintenance, and this is also a job opportunity for our inmates to learn plumbing, electrical, HVAC, a lot of skills. This yard right here at the bottom is actually the yard for our sex offender and substance use program building. They're separate so they can specialize in that, those type of programs. This is our warehouse. We're going to store a lot of food, a lot of supplies. It's a 55,000 square foot warehouse. Our substation for power. We have a little range out here. This is our motor pool. We have backup water coming up right here. And that's for culinary and for our fire. Just if we had a natural disaster out here, we have enough for 2 weeks. What's that? We have 17 people. So, and then as we turn around here, you see the warehouse again. This is the women's facility right here in front of us. See how they have 2 yards right here? We also have we have safety concerns for our female population as well. So we try to keep certain inmates away from each other. This is the general pop building. They have 2 yards. We did a sight barrier wall right here to be consistent with this building for the male population, keeping their yards separate. Some people don't get along in prison. I know that's hard to believe, but it's a thing. They have the same correctional industries building right here to get some further education and opportunities to work. They're going to have dining halls just like the males. They're going to have gyms and chapels in these buildings. And then they're receiving an orientation and even a maximum security building. We really don't have a lot of maximum security females, but we still had to give them the same things that the males have. This area is kind of interesting because, man, this is a really nice flyover. We have visiting for all of our general population. That's going to serve about 2,000 inmates right here in the front. So everyone goes through this screening building. I think that was me, sorry. And we have inside, outside contact and no contact, even kids visiting for children to have with their the male population right here. This is Board of Pardons, so most of the traffic that we'll have coming into our facility will be right here for visiting and general population. One of the perks that we have for our staff, this is culinary arts for the inmates to learn culinary arts, but it's shared with our staff dining area. So if we needed to take a break, we can go in this building right here and have some outside time and just be able to take a break while we're on duty. And this big building right here in the middle, this is our mental health building, our geriatrics right here in the front, our mental health population, our infirmary, and our clinic. And as we continue to fly over, maybe I shouldn't keep pausing. There's just so much to cover out here. It's kind of nice. It's just a nice fly around. I mean, are there any questions? Have you seen any hands pop up?
I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, Terry, there we go. And then Lynn.
Quickly, Michael, I was a tutor at the Metro Jail, and they had a strong academic program to get inmates up to speed to get a GED.
Right.
So is there any program like that planned out here?
Yes, we have a whole programming division. Our department is very large. One of our divisions is actually named programming. Our goal is to get them at least a high school diploma while they're in here, but we could even have college classes while they're in prison. We're looking at trying to get them even in maximum security. But like the way this building is, there's housing on the sides and there's the unit center in the middle. For the unit center right here in Max, we have 6 classrooms so they can actually further their education. We have a lot of in-cell studies for that population, but if you look, let me try and go back here a little bit. This building right here, this is Bear 1, Bear 2, Bear 3, Bear 4. This is the unit center. We have multiple classrooms in the unit center to further their education while they're in prison. So yes, our programming, they actually bring in not just education, but some tech skills, some different job opportunities. Our correctional industries provide multiple opportunities. And if they reach that level to hold a job, they'll be busy all day long, just like you would be as a citizen. You can go to school, you can go to work. This is a community right now and right here, and we have basically every opportunity. We would love to offer those to them. So yeah.
Thanks, Terry. Lynn, I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, is there room for expansion for additional buildings that might be needed?
Yeah, the state, I mean, we don't have any plans up for that right now, but the state did buy 323 acres out here and they only developed 175. So that's the outside of the whole campus, the parking lots, the warehouses. They did buy quite a bit more land, but we're a very low incarcerated state. There might come a day, I almost doubt in my lifetime, but that we would need to expand. But yes, we do have some more land out here. I think the next plan that I've heard about is if they did ever expand again, it would probably be at the Gunnison facility.
Cool.
Before moving more out here.
All right. I'm not seeing any other hands. And I know that we're already just a little bit over time, but are there additional questions? Well, if not, Lieutenant Millward, thank you so much. This has been super interesting to see, and the flyover is fantastic, puts it in perspective. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and I know Sandra Hollins, Representative Hollins, I heard her talking earlier about setting up a tour for this group. If she wants to set that up with our Director Turley, we can more than accommodate so you can see it, not just as a flyover, but actually come here and see it in person.
Thank you. And Dorothy, do I see your hand up? You are muted.
We've been meeting with corrections now for probably 4 years, waiting for this facility to be built. And a lot of our discussions were about how to incorporate the people who live in this area into the workforce. But I haven't really heard very much about how that's going. And other than that, I understand that you guys are short people. So can you
Yes.
kind of talk to us about how you're going to man this facility?
Yes, we have, we're actually doing a job fair the next 3 days, the 14th, 15th, and 16th out here on site. If you look at our website, there are some announcement and details on that. But we are wanting to recruit from this area, from neighboring counties. We're looking for qualified individuals to come and work at this new facility because the whole design is built on the concept of direct supervision. And we do need quite a few more staff to operate it the way it's designed to be operated. But we are hiring if you would like a job, Dorothy.
Well, I actually did work with corrections. So
Great. Awesome.
which is why I'm interested how you're going to handle this, because it's when I was there, it was frequent to have people from corrections as a pipeline to law enforcement. Now I understand it's the other way around.
Well,
Law
we
enforcement
are
hiring people from corrections.
Oh yeah, I believe that's always been a thing. We are the largest law enforcement agency in the state. I mean, we're running this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's a major undertaking to make this work. I mean, just looking at this place, and we have custody, we have programming, correctional industries, we have medical, clinical services, we have so many opportunities out here for a job. And some people have used it as an avenue to other agencies, and God bless them. We can take all the help we can get. So
Anyway, I didn't mean to, I didn't want to take a long time, but that's something we've been talking about for a long time.
oh yeah, we've had a standing, I've been here 18 years. It's been an awesome career, and it's nice working with we have some top-notch people doing this type of work. So it's very nice, very enjoyable.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands. If you have a question, raise your hand here in the next couple of seconds. Otherwise, thank you so much again, Lieutenant, for being here and for giving us that fabulous presentation. I know we've got a quick board report and then any public comments that are remaining. I'm not sure who from Westpointe gives that board report, but I'll turn it over to Westpointe for that.
Did you you had an issue you wanted to talk about for May?
Well, I'm supposed to chair the May meeting, and I'm hoping to have it as a in-person meeting. And Dorothy had talked about using the SLCC, or we could use the public library.
That's a great point, and Todd kind of right at the very beginning of the meeting, because we're using the library Zoom. Patrick from the library mentioned that they are accepting applications officially for in-person meeting rooms again. They're accepting applications now, starting for appointments on Monday.
Okay.
Anything else from Westpointe's board?
That's probably
it.
I think the other things we could probably handle at our board meeting next week.
Then public comment from anyone? Okay. I'm not seeing any hands or anyone unmuting. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it. And then we do have these meetings, these joint meetings, the second Wednesday of each month. Check out the Zoom link for more information to register. Does anyone from Westpointe have anything to add to the Jordan Meadow comments from this evening? Great.
Jordan Meadow, is Jordan Meadow going to join us next month?
We can talk about that.
Okay, so you need to talk with Todd.
Okay.
He's in charge of
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
And
perfect.
He's putting together, and I think your theme is that May is bicycle month. So, he's, the advantage of having different people do it is that, the meetings aren't just, the same old one format each time. People have different ideas about how to put together. So thank you, India, for all of your work in putting this together with Jordan Meadows. It was very helpful.
Well, thank you all. And Dorothy, I hope that you're feeling all better soon.
I hope so too. We're gonna take off. So thank you.